And I just caught that, so I have to. Anyway. We're on Exodus chapter 10 tonight. We're going to finish up first nine of the plagues. The last one we're going to be saved for next week. So we'll talk about it next week. But the 8th plague tonight is the locusts. And we've just been following along. Each one of these have gradually been getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And we'll see tonight, how bad it's gotten. And later on, next week it'll go further. Verse 1 in chapter 10, And the Lord said unto Moses, Go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I might show thee my signs before him, and that thou mayest tell in the ears of thy son and thy son's son, what things I have wrought in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know how that I am the Lord. And Moses and Aaron came in unto Pharaoh, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow will I bring the locusts into thy coasts, and they shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth, and they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field, and they shall fill thy houses, and the houses of all thy servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. So God's telling Moses and Aaron to go and tell Pharaoh, we're going to send another plague upon you. So far, the lice and the blood and all the changing the water, that affected small parts, and even the hail, it knocked down, it said almost every tree and all that stuff. But you can knock a tree down, or it can get broken limbs or whatever, and it'll still be growing sometimes, even if it's peeled over. Some of the roots are still attached, and it's still feeding that up. Well, he's going to make it so rough that they have nothing left. The barley, the rye, the wheat, all the different crops that were there that didn't get hit by the hail, now is going to be taken over. So it had to have progressed here, like we said, sometime, maybe a month. Since then, we said the whole thing may have lasted up to 6 months, maybe 4 to 6 months is kind of the best estimate of all the plagues, and we're not at the end. So, but it's been a little while since some of this has happened, but they're struggling. I mean, they always have reserves, they have something to go back on, but still, with all this being used up, it's used up fast, their reserves, and having nothing to replenish it. So whatever is left, these locusts that are going to come in on the wind, they're going to eat up everything else. Everything that's green, everything that's growing, everything else. We kind of see some of that this summer. I don't know if you saw, army worms hit my grass, and within a couple of days, just about all my bluegrass was gone. It was dead. So I hope some of it comes back, because they did chew it. I'm getting ready to get it overseeded and kind of see if I can get some more growing. But you can see insects do great damage when when they're in packs like that, when they grow or come across. Just think of all of Egypt as this locusts come across and eat. And we don't know how far it extended, but we think it was just through Egypt. We know that Goshen, the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, they didn't get affected as much on the last few of the plagues, but they're going to not get it here either. So they're going to have some to eat. some to drink. But still yet, the Egyptians, just sure, like our government, will go out and take what they have to use for their own means.
You know, I was thinking, wonder if Moses ever felt like Jeremiah, because every time he went, this time God told him a few times, I have hardened his heart.
Yeah.
Like Jeremiah, I want you to go preach. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
But I still want you to preach, and he's doing the same thing.
Yeah. Is that the same thing as church being indoor and everybody's got their phone up like this when you're preaching? Do you get that feeling?
No.
Now what? Some places that's right. I've seen, you know, especially in schools and classes and stuff that I've been in, and, you know, there's somebody teaching or something up there, and people's got their phone down here playing games or checking their email or, you know, doing anything besides listening. And that's what happens. We get complacent today. We don't want to hear something. We think we know it, or, you know, whatever. And we just go off on our own. Our mind, it's kind of like I call the butterfly effect. You know, butterfly flies by, and whatever you're thinking about it, oh, that's a pretty butterfly. You know, and it's gone, whatever you was thinking about. And that's kind of what our minds have become, because it's grown. I think it's part of the whole system that's happened. Back when the Jewish people and the Israelites, God told them this, they told these stories. It tells us in here, I'm doing this for a reason, so you can tell your sons, your grandsons, your children from here on. We hear this. We hear it in David. It talks about, you know, in the Psalms and things, that, okay, this is what the people feared because God did all these. The Egyptians was beat up. The Philistines knew this. This is the God of the Israelites. And later on, the Jewish people, they continued that on. As we go forward in time, we get to where the teaching is not the family or your group that's teaching it, somebody else, like our school systems. I understand why they had to put together and things like that. But it can put it together. Usually, I like the old time school. You got a teacher, they teach all the subjects. They may teach all the kids even, from little to big, who knows. You're getting all of them. Nowadays, they break it down into, you know, this is one school is 8th grade, one school is 9th grade, and they got 5, 6, 7, 8 classes that they got to go to. 30 or 40 minutes is all. That's because that's all their attention span is. They can't, in my opinion, they can't hold it any longer. And that's why TV shows have done that. We have 30-minute TV shows, 40, hour TV shows. When you watch a movie now, if it's over an hour, hour and a half, you're like, oh man, this is so slow. What's going on? Let's get this on the road. It's just been put into us. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. In my opinion.
Well, that was just when you said that. Inspiration has the Gunsmoke, and I like the 30-minute one.
Yeah.
They make the plot, then 15 minutes later they got it solved.
Got it all solved, yeah.
I mean, I told this, I said, I guess I'm getting where I like to.
It is. You get a story in just a short time. Well, that's the way our storybooks were. Everything is. But, and even the stories that are told, they're short, and the way they learned the Jewish people, the way they learn them, they have to go back and repeat these stories as they grow older, because they have then to learn them and then repeat them to their families later on. And we've lost a lot, I think, in history because of that. Some people say, well, you didn't know the world history. Well, I wasn't in the world. I was in Oklahoma. All I need to know is about Oklahoma. And everybody say, oh, you're racist or whatever. This is what affects me. This is what's here. This is my family. This is what happens. Now we're growing bigger and bigger. Okay, yeah, things happen outside in the nation, but it's different. We're not seeing the same things here in the middle of the country that they are on the east and west coast. I'm not saying it's not going to get there. I think it will get here eventually. But it's just mainly because we don't have as many people That's, to me, a good thing, because we're not so densely populated as they are in the east and west coast. Anyway, we're way off target, so. It did say there, he hardened his heart. So Pharaoh hardened his own heart in the first few plagues, and then here it says God hardened his heart. And what that means is God allowed Pharaoh to go ahead and be hardened. Sometimes, you know, we do something and we say, oh man, I really shouldn't have done that. That's really, you know, too much. And you go have to repent or go tell them you're sorry or whatever it is. But when we get that spirit of the we don't care, you know, I say what I said and I'm the last one, that's not right. And that's what God is allowing to happen with Pharaoh. Pharaoh wanted to have a hardened heart. He did not want the slaves to leave. So God allowed that by actually letting him have his way, by hardening his heart. And then it talks about how that you can tell, you know, all the people, your son's sons, and going on down. It says, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? That's Moses, God talking to Pharaoh. Pharaoh has said at least a couple of times, entreat for the Lord for me, you know, that I may repent. But then he turns right around and goes away from it. So that's what God is asking here. How many times is it going to take? And it finally takes his life of his firstborn. We'll see in the last
It looked like that was the only thing that he loved.
I think so. Other than himself.
He had no importance of anything until it came to his son and him.
Right.
That was it.
Because he was king, and his son was going to be king after him, and he wanted to be, he wanted to be God. That's what he thought he was anyway, but he wasn't. Brother Epson, you'll read 7 through 11.
And Pharaoh's servant said unto him, how long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet the Egyptian is destroyed? And Moses and Aaron were brought again unto Pharaoh, and he said unto them, go, serve the Lord your God, but who are they that shall go? And Moses said, we will go with our young, with our old, with our sons, and with our daughters, and our flocks, and with our herds we will go, for we must hold a feast unto the Lord. And he said unto them, let the Lord be so with you, as I will let you go, and your little ones look to it. For evil is before you, not so. Go now, ye that are men, and serve the Lord, that ye did desire, and they were driven from Pharaoh's presence.
So here we see we've not heard a lot about the Pharaoh's servants. A couple of times we hear in the first few verses, you know, that some of the Pharaoh's servants went out, put their livestock up when Moses told them to do this. Here now the servants are going to Pharaoh and said, look, this guy's a thorn in our side. Won't you just let him go? Won't you just let him do what? But instead of letting them, just let the men go. Pharaoh goes, hey, that's a good idea. Let's go back to Moses and tell him, okay, you can go do that, but it's just your men is all that can go. Because that's what Pharaoh wanted to know. Okay, who's going to go? He didn't really tell them, the men, but he did. But then, and Moses came back and said, oh, everybody's going. There is nobody staying. Everybody's got to go. And even the herds have got to go with us, because later on it'll talk about we don't know what God's going to require for a sacrifice. So we don't know how many cows or how many sheep or how many of this or how many of that. That won't happen until we get there. And that's true. I mean, they had an idea probably of what was going on, that they would have to do some sacrificing and things like that to get back to where God wanted them to be. But Moses rejected Pharaoh's idea and his subject's idea and said, no, that's not going to work. So we see Moses has grown. God told him he's going to hearken, he's going to harden his heart, and he's going to offer you these things. but don't do it. Everybody's gonna go.
Yeah, in that one commentary I was reading, it may mention that they may have thought that if they just let the men go
Mm-hmm.
and kept all the kids after a while, they would wanna come back and they would be, come back subservient to them again.
Sure.
Because they,
Sure, they're holding them hostage, that's what they're doing. They wanna hold, everybody there hostage. So they just let the men go. And then it says Moses first came to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice to let Israel go?" Well, he's kind of already answered that. He answered that all the way back in the first, I think it's in chapter 5, when he said, "Who is this God? Who is your God?" Okay? Here's the ones. He's greater than the Kunam, which was the god of the guardian of the Nile. He's greater than Hapi, the spirit of the Nile. He's greater than Osiris, the Nile as his bloodstream. He's greater than Hecht, the frog goddess of fertility. Hathor, the cow-like mother goddess. Imhotep, the god of medicine. Nut, the god of the sky. So he's telling them here, it's more than what you got.
Yeah.
It's not any of your gods. Can't you understand that particular way?
Get smart, stupid.
Yeah. He said, so far, all these have come down because God has told us to do these things. And God's going to do it. And when you asked, God relented as far as he stopped. But Pharaoh was just not ready to give up. He's afraid if he loses his slave trade that everything's going to go downhill. And it will, to some extent. They're going to have to rebuild. They're going to have to do something different than what they had before. So in verse 12, 13, 14, 15, the plague comes of locusts. You want to go ahead and read that, Iris, for us?
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt, and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locust, and the locust went up over all the land of Egypt, and rested in all the coasts of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there were no such locusts as they, neither after them shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. And there remained not any green thing in the trees, or in the herbs of the field, through all the land of Egypt.
So it was totally decimated. And we've seen some things like that on the news. If you'll look, some of the different countries have had locusts go through, and they've shown it, and it just wipes them out totally. They can't have anything for a while if they haven't saved up.
So what are those bugs?
The bugs that we have, the cicadas that we have,
On my porch.
the cicadas, yeah, that's the
They're
17.
what? Katydids?
Cicadas, or what they call them, they're
I thought
locusts.
they were
They look huge
locusts.
like.
They are locusts,
Yeah.
but the name,
About that.
the green, are they green, the ones that you've seen?
Grayish green,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
They're not nice.
No, but those are what they call 17-year locusts, which their life cycles when they evidently, and I don't know a whole lot about them, but they only come out like every 17 years.
Yeah.
We see them every year a little bit, but this year it's been really bad. This is one of their years that they're really populated. I think I told the story before. We was getting my, I think it's air conditioning service there at the house or something serviced, and the guy was out there, and he wasn't from here. He was from New York, and is in the middle of summer. Yeah, he was raised in, he was living here now, but he just wasn't used to it. He was living in an apartment. And it was the middle of the day, but boy, those things started up, and he was just like, when you're in the country, they can get loud. And it's not only at night, it's during the day and any other time.
Oh,
And he was just, he's like just looking around, like, what's going on? I can just imagine what this could have been like.
Yeah.
It's just crawling everywhere, just
Just like a
eating
million of
anything.
them.
Yeah, and just a million of them in one short place.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere.
And this so loud, you
Yeah.
can't even hear your neighbor talk to you.
Yeah, that's right.
You couldn't walk through them.
No, you couldn't. They're moving and flying and, going back and forth and, just everywhere. It says God did for Pharaoh what he will do in our lives. Expose and topple every false god. When we trust in these gods, it hurts to see them fall, but it is always best to have them exposed. And we have gods in our lives if we're not careful. We gotta, could be TV, could be money, could be cars, could be anything, if we're not careful. That's what I'm saying. If we put it up on a pedestal, sports, if we put it up on a pedestal and we kind of worship it, so to say, and it's like, well, it's not my religion, but okay. You know more about I've come across people that know more about statistics on certain people and sports and games and stuff. I'm like, man, do you have a life other than that? And basically they don't.
Well, sometimes teenagers,
Oh, yeah.
you mention something to them and you think, I guess it's over their head, but 5 minutes later they're talking about a baseball player or football player, and he's running so many yards per carry, and
Had so many passes this year and so many completions and
And so many people think if you're rich, you're happy,
Mhm.
but then they realize they're not.
No. God gives us what we need to be able to do what we can do.
The joy of the Lord is our happiness.
If we can use it, hopefully we use it to his purposes and he blesses us for that, so. 16 through 20, Sister Bertha.
Okay. Then Pharaoh called to Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God, that he may take away from me this debt only. And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. And the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts, and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go. I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Pharaoh did the same thing in Exodus 9:27-28. He said the word of repentance, but he did not follow through with the actions. His heart was only hardened more after God relented and showed mercy. Once again comes the easy confession of sin and the shallow repentance that springs only from a desire to avert the consequences.
Yeah, that's, Pharaoh, what he says isn't worth anything. I mean, he says he repents, but only one time. This time. And then as soon as he does, he turns right around and goes back and, does what he's been doing before. So.
the fish had a good day that day.
Yeah, they got fed a lot. They had all that locust over there at the Red Sea. Yeah, they got a lot of
We wanna
food.
go on the Red
Any
Sea.
fish that was left, I'll say that was there, because I'm sure there wasn't too much left over there, but. And the last part of this is, it's 21:23-23. Brother Harold, you'll read that?
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings.
So this is almost it is a supernatural darkness that was placed on Egypt. Now, you gotta understand it was through all of Egypt, but where the children of Israel were, at least they could light lamps and have some light there. The Egyptians, no matter what they did, you could just imagine, light a light, and it wouldn't light, or they couldn't see with it. I know we've got a circuit breaker on the outside of our house. Whenever it rains a little bit, it goes into that, and it kicks the circuit breaker off in our bathroom. And all the lights go off. We got a couple of night lights in there, just so we can see, because it is dark.
Yeah.
The windows are, shades are closed and everything, so you make your way in there in the middle of the night, and if one of the cats happen to be in your way, you can't go. That's what I do. I mean, you just don't see them, because, you can't see that close. And it's one of those things that happened here. This darkness was supernatural, as I said, because it said you could feel it. It's the oppression. And just imagine what that is. That is God withdrawing his light. And when God said in the beginning, let there be light, before that there wasn't any light, till what God had. And when he said, let there be light, then there was light. And things were made. Here he's withdrawing us. What does it say in Hades or in hell? It's going to be gnashing of teeth, outer darkness. This is what it's going to be like.
I was just thinking that, Brother Darrell, how terrible,
Mhm.
terrible hell's going to be.
Yes.
Just like he said here, just the thought, okay, especially as a believer, the thought of God withdrawing his light.
That's right. It's one of those things that we can't comprehend, I don't think. Because, they didn't do anything for 3 days. They didn't get out of their houses. They couldn't go to their jobs. They didn't do anything because it was a fear. The darkness that was on them was a fear that I don't know what's there. I don't know and it could have been even, we don't know. They postulate that in here, and I think in Matthew Henry, it could have been that this realm, as the night or the darkness was withdrawn, the demons started coming out. So you may have been hearing things, and you don't know what it is. It's in your house. This morning, I didn't hear Darla. She got coughing or something, and went upstairs to, sleep the rest of the night because she just couldn't get rest. And this morning, I didn't know she was gone. I just got up and went to the bathroom and everything, and I was coming back out, and I heard this creak, and I'm like, all 3 cats are here. Where Darla's in bed. I wonder who's upstairs. And it just kind of creeps you out a little bit. And she came downstairs, and I said, oh, okay, thank you. I didn't know who was up there, because we got a couple of stairs that kind of let you know somebody's up there. But that's what it is. It says a thick darkness, something that is felt, and I think it's something that is so terrifying that as scared as you've ever been, that's not even close.
Well, just think about, have you been on a ride or like a train or something that goes through a tunnel?
Mm-hmm.
And it is just pitch dark.
Right.
You can't see nothing.
Right.
And you're so glad when you get out of it
Mhm.
and you can see light again.
Yeah.
It's like, that has to be how they felt. It was just intimidating, it was frightening, it was, ominous.
And they've gone through and tried to say, oh, it was an eclipse and all this. Well, I've been in eclipses, and it gets dark. Yeah, you can tell that, it's not the sun shining all, but the sun's still shining. You can see it, you have light. Here, you have no light. That's what happened. There was nothing there.
I know, I mentioned it before, but when we was kids, we went to Carlsbad Cavern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they take you down the deepest part of that thing, okay?
Yep.
and then they turn the light off, okay?
Yeah.
And for kids, okay, you're holding your mother's hand, okay, your daddy's hand.
Yep.
And you know, though, in a few minutes, the light is gonna be turned back on, okay? The idea of, they didn't know how long it was gonna last.
That's right.
And the idea that, man, this is gonna last forever, I mean.
Mm-hmm. Ruby Falls was like that. We went
Yeah.
down to Ruby Falls, and over in Colorado, we went down in one of the mines up there, Molly something, I don't remember what it is. But, so you get in this cage that's an elevator that's not very big, and you cram about 10 people in there, and you descend like 1,000 feet. And it doesn't have any lights either. You'll pass them and they'll have lights in those tunnels that they've gone out to go through those shafts. And we was going down, and Daniel was, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something like that. And we hear the guy that was leading us, the miner, start giggling. And it's like, or something, Darla, I have to tell you the whole story because I don't remember exactly what it was. But when we got down there, he said, that boy was holding my leg like some fierce because he didn't know who was. He was trying to grab somebody's, because he was scared. And that's the way it is. You can't see nothing, and I want somebody to hang on to. And like you said, Amber, that one time, oh God, I want somebody with some skin on, something like that. That's the way it is. We want to be able to touch people and be, that know that they're there. And this is like, each one of them was separated almost, that they could not even communicate. The thickness, the darkness is so thick that maybe I was speaking to you, but you couldn't even hear me.
Would that be kind of like a dark fog?
It could be anything, but whatever it is supernatural, that they felt it, and it was an oppression, I'll say it that way, that it was just pushing down on them, and they just, I don't know exactly what it is, but this is what, when we read in the Bible the rest of the things like this thick darkness and outer darkness, it's what it sounds like. So.
Well, when the power gets knocked out at your house,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no light, it just feels like it's closed in around you until you stumble to the flashlight or the candle or whatever.
Yeah, you light that one up, and it's, by golly, I can see. That's even though it's one little candle or one little flashlight or something. Yeah. So, 24 through 29, Sister Janet, you want to read that for us?
And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye, serve the Lord, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you. And Moses said, Thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not a hoof be left behind, for thereof must we take to serve the Lord our God. And we know not with what we must serve the Lord until we come thither. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more. For in that day that thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well, I will see thy face again no more.
Yep, that's right. So he had gotten fed up. He was willing to give in. You go do all this stuff. But Pharaoh still wanted to hold a few things back. He wanted to keep the cattle back.
Well, definitely wanted to keep, because that was all the cattle that was left.
That's right. All their cattle had been killed and all that stuff. And later on, we talk about them pilfering or getting all the things from the Egyptians. That's right. They took just about everything that the Egyptians had for animal-wise, because theirs was the only ones left. And they had to go out and buy and get from other countries as they go back to this. And he said, not one hoof is going to be left here. Not one animal at all is going to be left. We're going to be taken out because we don't know what God's going to require of us in doing our sacrifices. So Pharaoh just blows up and he said, Get out of my face. Get out of my throne room. Get out of here. I don't wanna see you again. Now, one of the things we saw 2 or 3 times, Moses was coming to the river where Pharaoh was coming. He met him coming to the river because either Pharaoh was bathing or whatever it was at that particular time. He was doing his obeisance to the Nile or whatever. But he told him, I don't want to come across you again at all. I don't want to see you here, there, anywhere. If you see my face again, you're going to die. And Moses said, okay, that's all right. You're not going to see my face again. And he didn't. Okay? Because he tells him to go on, get your people out of here. And when he starts coming back after him, well, I don't want to get too far in the story, he doesn't get close enough to see Moses' face. Now, you might see him next week as he's leaving, but he tells him, get out of here. That's what's going to happen as we go forward. But it says here, Pharaoh was now beyond reason, and God didn't reason with him. And this was, again, the third of the third set of plagues. So God didn't tell him this was going to happen, this darkness. It just happened. And they didn't have time to get ready for it. They didn't have time to go gather wood or anything to try to light the lights or anything like this, more than what they had. And even if they did, it didn't work. Only in the Israelis' homes, the Jewish homes, did the lights work. Again, that's supernaturally, God allowed them to have light. I've seen it portrayed that, it's a big black bubble over Egypt. But it's not really what it says here. It says the darkness is everywhere. But where the Egyptians was, there wasn't any light at all could happen in their house or anything, Pharaoh's house or anything. But where Israel was in their houses, they could light lights and candles. And it pushed away that darkness enough to where they didn't have that oppression.
Just think about this. Sometimes, the other day I went to watch my boys play football. My nephews play football.
Mm-hmm.
And when you drive back, you can look, and you see fields and stuff. But every once in a while, you see light.
Right.
Okay, you see a light here or outside light. But just to travel for, I don't know how many, say miles and see well, you could travel, okay.
Yeah.
But no,
It's I living in Kansas for a couple of years and working in Kansas for several years. Whenever we'd leave, we'd work till dark usually, and then drive home. And most of the time, we was an hour or more away. And you can tell, you can start seeing a light spot on the road, coming up ahead of you. Well, that's about 10 miles out.
Yeah.
Because it's so far away. You can start seeing a little bit, and I know there's other places in the world, but when we lived out there in Turpin, which is a suburb of Liberal, if you want to call it that, I think it's 300 people lived in Turpin. And yeah, it was tiny, tiny, tiny. But you go out on the back porch and look, and the light pollution is nil out there, except for your house, whatever it is. And it's just like, man, I didn't know that many stars is out there. It's like going out in the middle of the desert or somewhere where there is no light, looking up and you see all the stars. That's just very amazing to me. But yeah, you go out there and it's dark. If it's a cloudy day, even out there and during the day, if it's cloudy, because everything, am I going north or south or west? Which way am I going? Because you're driving for, an hour and you're supposed to turn up here at whatever, the silo, and you go, did I make that turn yet? I mean, you just lost. I can just imagine if it was totally dark where you couldn't see. So, well, that's all I had tonight.
It's a good teaching. Thank you, sir.
I really like that last